Hi, I'm Sam Levine with Hartford Promise. I am the Director of Scholarships and the person that issues the actual scholarship awards to the various colleges. We're having a meeting here today to discuss the new FAFSA form and kind of walk you through a little bit of it and show you where people might have gotten tripped up a little bit, where a little confusion lies. I'd also like to introduce you to my coworker, Cheerece.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cheerece Burrell. I'm the Reaching Back coach here with Hartford Promise. And as Sam mentioned, we're really looking forward to helping to clear up any confusion that you guys might run into.
And I'd like to finally introduce Holly, who's with, can you just explain your organization and go into that and
Yeah,
your specific job? Because you'll do
sure.
that and I will.
So I'm Holly Franquet from ECMC, the College Place. I'm the director of the College Place, Connecticut. And basically, I get paid by a nonprofit company to give free advice to students all over the state about college and financial aid. I'm called a college access counselor, and my services are free.
Thank you, Holly. So if we could just jump right into it and go straight into some of the new things. As you explained to me, there is a sample form. You qualified that it's not 100% translating to the new form, but it's pretty close and you'll be able to go through it.
It is. It's the demo that we use all over the country to show people what the FAFSA is like. And I'm going to assume that you have an FSA ID and you made it at least 3 days before starting the FAFSA, that it's verified, and you are the student, and we're going to start out the FAFSA as a student. So the first thing you're going to see is 4 onboarding screens, including a video to teach you all about the FAFSA. And you really should read these screens. I advise you to read everything on every screen, but we're not going to do it now. You can always pause this recording and read everything. The onboarding screens explain a few things about how the new FAFSA works. And we are on the 4th screen. We're going to start the FAFSA. Okay, so here is our fake student. Her name is Raya Tran. She has an FSA ID. She logged in with the with her FSA ID, and it shows her name, date of birth, part of her social, and her email. And this is the one part of the demo that is a little bit slow every single time I do it. And so I think I'm going to pause the recording until we get to where we're going to be.
Okay.
Except I can't do that right now, so we're just going to deal with it. Okay. I wanted to let you know that you're supposed to get an email when your FSA ID is verified. Basically, the FAFSA folks are running your name and social and date of birth through the Social Security Administration to make sure that when you created your FSA ID, you typed exactly what is on your Social Security record. That's your name, your birth date, and your social.
So
Okay.
can I ask you a quick question here?
Sure.
If her name was Raya Ann Tran, would she have to put the whole name in? If it was
You
that was on her social security card?
So there is room for a middle initial on your FSA ID. It's not that important. What's important is first name and last name, especially if you have a hyphenated or 2 last names. Please put whatever is on your social security card. And if you run out of space, just type as much as fits in the space, especially for your last name. Okay, so we finally gotten to the bottom of this screen. We see Raya's address. This is the only thing you can change on this screen. If your address has changed, go ahead. Notice that she lives in New York. It's because this is a national demo. And so I can put in Connecticut. And let's just leave it at New York. Remember, it is a demo. So you are going to put Connecticut. Now, this is an important place here. You don't see it, but on the real FAFSA, there's going to be a little info logo and a link to help and hints. So it's going to be a little eye in a circle. You don't see it, but it's going to be everywhere on every question on the FAFSA. Students don't understand what to put on this question. If you were born in Connecticut, remember it's going to say Connecticut for you, then put the month and year that you were born. If you move to Connecticut, then put the month and year that you moved to Connecticut. Note that your parents are going to get the same question when they do their part of the FAFSA. Note that it says, when did you become a legal resident? If your parents are undocumented, it doesn't matter. What the question is asking is, when did you move to this state? Okay, now this page is important. This is the page where you're going to give consent to have the FAFSA look into the IRS and see if you filed a 2022 tax return. Even if you didn't, you have to give consent at the bottom of this page. If you don't click approve, you don't get financial aid. So you will have to do it. Your parent will have to do it on the parent side. Okay, personal circumstances. I think a lot of my students are single, never married. Remember, we're talking about you. If you're a high school senior, you're going to put first year freshman because this is what you're going to be when you start school after high school graduation. Will you have a first bachelor's degree by the time you start college? You're going to answer no. Personal circumstances. For most of my students, they're going to choose none of the above, none of these apply. I'll give you a couple that may apply to you though. Okay, if you were a ward of the court or in foster care, ward of the state, ward of the court, foster care at any time since you turned 13, even if you are no longer in foster care, you may check this box. Ward of the court, you may check this box. If you have no living parents since teenage years, 13 or above, check this box. This one, legal guardianship. A legal guardian is someone who is not your parent, who went to court and has court-ordered legal guardianship from the judge, has the paperwork to show you. So can't check this box unless it's official legal guardianship. If grandma has custody of you, for example, it doesn't count. So please talk to your counselor, talk to me. We can help you know which one to put. For most of my students, they're putting none of these apply.
So can I ask you a question? If they have no living biological or adoptive parents, do they check that and the bottom one or just one?
They would check the orphan one. Yep, no living biological or adoptive parent.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. And remember, there's going to be a help and hints for all of these questions, so you can click on it to get more information. Okay, this is for students who are unaccompanied and homeless or self-supporting. You're working, supporting yourself, but you're at risk of being homeless. Please talk to your counselor about this. Most of my students can say no. If you are homeless with your family, it doesn't count. This is only for students who are on their own. Okay. This one is for unusual circumstances that prevent you from contacting your parents, or contacting your biological or adoptive parents would be a risk to you. Okay. It means you're not living with your parents. You left home because of abuse or a threatening environment. There's some kind of problem that prevents you from contacting your parents and going home. Okay. So talk to your counselor about this, ask me. Most of my students are saying no. Okay, this page is super important. Please pay attention because a lot of students are confused by the long question and they're answering the wrong way.
Holly, just to interrupt, this is the page that has been showing up on social media. It's been on Instagram, it's been on TikTok. So if you could just delve into this and what it really means, that would be really helpful.
Yes, and I wish it didn't have the title apply for a direct unsub loan only. It should be titled, do you have unwilling parents? The idea is, are your parents unwilling to provide their information? Even though you live with them, they support you, they just don't feel like filling out the FAFSA, they don't want to give their information. Okay, in most cases, thank goodness, the parents are willing to provide their information. Or if they're a little hesitant, your counselor or someone from Hartford Promise, Cheerece, can talk to them and explain to them why it's important for them to contribute their information. Okay, because if you live with your parents and are supported by them, and even if you don't live with your parents in most cases, and they are supposed to contribute their information to the FAFSA and they refuse to do it, you're not getting financial aid because you
So,
don't have a reason for them not to provide their information. You're only going to be able to get a small unsubsidized student loan, no grants, no scholarships.
so if your parents are willing and they are participating in this and they're cooperating, you check which one,
No, just say no.
because
Okay.
it's a double negative in there.
Well, it's just a very long, complex sentence. Yes, it's a horrible question. Just look at the beginning. Are the students' parents unwilling? No, they are not. Well, you're right. There it is. It's not unwilling. And I've complained about it. Let's see if it changes next year, but please just say no. Now we're asking questions about your parents. Are they married to each other? Yes. Then you're providing information for both parents. Are they married to each other? No. Then, do they live together? Yes. Then you're providing information for both parents. They're not married and they don't live together. Okay, pay attention if this is the situation. Then, did one parent provide more financial support to you than the other parent over the past 12 months? So if you live with only one parent of your biological or adoptive parents, you're not automatically going to say, I live with mom, mom's my parent on the FAFSA. You are going to have to figure out with your parents which parent provided more financial support to you over the past 12 months. And then, even if it's not the parent you live with, it's that parent who must provide information on your FAFSA. And as you see below here, if the parents provide exactly the same amount to you, or if they don't support you, maybe because you live with grandma, then you have to use the parent with the greater income and assets. That item has been changed on the real FAFSA. It's income and assets.
So it's not an or, it's and.
It's and now,
And,
you will see
and
it.
can you talk about what an asset might be?
Okay, assets would be basically bank accounts and any other investments. We'll get to it on the asset page.
Would it be a
It's
house?
usually for most people, it's the greater income.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going to go back here to say parents are married to each other because I want a situation where I can show you what to do for two parents. So we need information for one of your parents now. And the new FAFSA, need to read everything really carefully, doesn't say you can invite one or both parents. Up here, it says you should invite only one parent. And down here, it says we strongly encourage you to invite only one parent. And please read and follow the instructions. Okay, so even if you have two, you're going to invite one parent. And I'm putting in fake information except for my name. If your parent doesn't have a social security number, you're going to check this box. I want to say something about that though. If your parent doesn't have a social, or even if your parent has a social, you and your parents need to create your FSA IDs and have them verified before you start the FAFSA. Okay. So please just do that step. Hopefully you've done it already.
And
Maybe,
so you have
maybe
to be
not.
really mindful and careful when you're making sure you don't make a typo here. These have to be spot on, these numbers.
Right. Okay. So I'm just putting my email address. This is my work email, and I'm going to have an email sent to me to invite me as the parent to contribute to my students' FAFSA. And we'll continue.
So you should just ignore the other one.
Yes, please don't fill in both. And if you have only one parent who's your parent on the FAFSA, you'll only see space for one student. Okay, these questions on the next few pages are optional demographic questions for research purposes. I encourage you to fill them out. You can click prefer not to answer because I think it's good for the FAFSA folks to see who is filling out the FAFSA so that maybe they can do outreach to groups of people who maybe they see are not doing FAFSAs when they probably need to be. For me, I'm going to click not Hispanic. And then for race, you can click as many as apply. If you click some of these, you're going to see even more details, which you can fill out as you like. So I can say that I am white, black, and I'm going to throw in Asian. And you can see all the different options. And my husband's half Japanese. I'm not, but I'm just demoing what this looks like. So you can answer or prefer not to answer. Okay, if you're a US citizen, click this box. If you are a green card holder or another eligible non-citizen, put in your A number, your alien number.
And then what happens if you are undocumented and you don't have a?
You actually don't get to even start the FAFSA.
Okay.
Yep, yep. Okay, so parents' college completion. When we're talking college, we're talking bachelor's degree from any country, okay? So if your parent has an associate degree, it's attended college but not completed, it needs to be a bachelor's degree at least in any country to be considered completed college. Okay, this question, was the student's parent or guardian killed in the line of duty, either on active duty with the armed forces or as a public safety officer? Fortunately, most of my students can say no. There is financial aid for students in those categories. That's why the question is there. Okay, you will all have high school diplomas, but for someone with a GED or an equivalent, they can check that box, or if they're homeschooled. Okay, so from what high school did the student graduate, or will the student graduate? This demo is just showing a certain group of high schools, so I'm not going to be able to show you the complete.
But if you typed in Connecticut, would Weaver High School pop up as a possibility in the poll?
If you put in Hartford, yeah. Okay, and see, this demo is just limited to a few names, so I'm just going to pick.
You should be able to. It should be able to populate.
It will.
Your high school.
Yes.
Okay.
And then you're going to confirm your high school.
So they have to pay special attention to detail to make sure that all lines up. Even though there's no Albuquerque, Connecticut.
It's just a demo. Okay, so we're moving on. Okay, so the questions you see are going to be a little bit different. Remember, the FAFSA, the real FAFSA has been tweaked a little bit. This this demo is assuming that the student filed a tax return. And remember at the very beginning, when you clicked approve consent, I give consent to have the FAFSA folks look in the IRS and see if I filed a tax return. If you didn't file a tax return, you will get a question saying, did you file a tax return? And you're going to say no, if you didn't, okay? Now, these
Scroll up to
questions,
the top for a second,
yeah,
the very top. So this is for the student, their
yes,
2022 tax return.
yes. And I have very few seniors who filed a tax return for 2022,
Okay, that's what I was.
okay? If you did file a tax return for 2022, and definitely if your parents did, they will still see these questions. They are going to be 0 for most people. Ask us if you have questions, but they're very uncommon. However, you will get 3 questions about your assets, okay? Let me start at the bottom, because most of my high school seniors don't have businesses or investment farms, okay? So that's 0. Most of my high school students don't have investments such as rental houses, rental real estate, or vacation homes, or stocks and bonds and other types of investments. But a lot of students do have bank accounts. So we're talking about cash that you keep, as well as your savings and checking accounts. So you're going to look up whatever you have in the bank as of the day you do the FAFSA, and you're going to type that number in, okay? Be advised, I'm not going to show you the parent part of the FAFSA. It's very similar to yours. It's even quicker. But your parents will have to answer these questions too. Sam, do you want me to go over the investment part, or can we just rely on clicking on the info button?
I think that we can probably do the info button, and also we will hopefully work with you later, Holly, to help you, have another session live, hopefully, and people can ask questions and attend, and their parent, we could do the parental session separate.
Great. Okay, and so you're almost done. What you're doing at the end is selecting the colleges that need to get your information. So any colleges you are applying to or thinking of applying to, okay? Got to put them on the FAFSA so that they get this information and can offer you financial aid. Now you can put up to 20 colleges on this FAFSA. So I'm hoping that most of you are not applying to more than 20, okay? And again, this is just a demo, so only a certain small group of colleges show up, but be advised that all the colleges you're applying to will show up. By the way, if you're applying to CT State, our new name for our community college, you're looking for Connecticut State Community College, okay?
That's good
CT
to know.
State.
What if you're applying to the University of Connecticut? Do you have to put in the specific campus, or is it just the University of Connecticut?
It's University of Connecticut. Just type the word Connecticut and you'll find it. It says all campuses when you get to it.
If
Great question.
if I'm a student applying at this part specifically, can I go back in and add a school later on, or do I have to make sure I add my schools at this point?
You can, okay? So I'm going to show you the review page that shows up at the end. This is just before you sign it, and you can actually go in. Let's see if the demo will expand all the sections. And you can when you get to the end here, review everything, and you really should. And you can add schools now. Let's go all the way down. If you've just forgotten something. No, and it's not. Well, I think it'll show up in a minute. Okay, but you asked Cheerece if you can add schools later. Yes, so we're at almost the end of January. Now, all FAFSAs submitted in January are supposed to be processed at the end of January. Federal Student Aid, because this is a new FAFSA, is holding all of these FAFSAs to make sure everything's working right and submitting them all at the end of the month. So even if you did your FAFSA on January 2nd, your FAFSA has been held, and you saw that on the screen as well as on the confirmation email that you received. Okay. However, I am not sure now that we're almost at the end of the month that FAFSAs will be processed at the end of the month. We may be going into February when the FAFSAs all get processed. You will get an email when your FAFSA has been processed. And at that point, you can log back into your FAFSA and change anything you need to correct, including adding schools. If you really have submitted the names there of 20 colleges and you're applying to more than 20, you're going to have to remove some names and then add the new schools in, and then submit the FAFSA again.
So the process is you complete this, there'll be a pause for them to process them. And then once they've processed them, you can then log back in to your account and make any changes for colleges at that point.
Right, right. So if I'm still in the review, I can certainly click on any of the links and go back in and add schools. But once I sign and my parent has signed the FAFSA and it's been submitted, then I've got to wait until I get the email that says that my FAFSA has been processed, the information has been sent to my schools. At that point, I can log back in and add more schools. Now, the normal processing time is only a couple of days. And once we get going with this new FAFSA, let's say you do your FAFSA because you're only going to CT State, or maybe you forgot to put CT State on your FAFSA, it'll be only a couple of days from the time you submit it until the time you get the email saying it's been processed. But right now, for this initial batch, it's going to take a little longer. Okay, you notice that it shows the parent with whom I want to share this information, and I've invited Holly, my parent, to contribute to the FAFSA. The invitation has been sent, but if I made a mistake, I can go back and change it. I'm going to click continue. And we're at the end. This is the sign and submit page. This is the section, just like any government application, that has you promise that you have told the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You should read all this information and click agree if you agree, and then sign. Remember, your FAFSA will not be actually submitted until your parent also does the parent part of the FAFSA. Okay, and so it says you're almost there. Okay, I'm going to stop the sharing now because I think we've done enough of the demo. We haven't done the parent part, but that's okay. And what do you think?
It seems like they made a couple glitches, but it seems a pretty straightforward. This is the question that I have, and because in the past it's tripped up students and they've gotten selected for verification as a result of it. So apparently, if you put that you live on 123 Main Street, ST, on your IRS return, and then when you fill out your FAFSA, you write out 123 Main Street, it tripped it up and caused a verification issue. Is that happen anymore?
No, that's actually old information from the old FAFSA. It wasn't actually for verification. What that was for anyone who's watching who did a FAFSA last year or in the past, that was for the data retrieval tool that transferred the taxes, especially parents, because a lot of our seniors don't have tax returns. As you noticed, you didn't see anything there where it said go into the IRS and transfer your taxes. That worry is gone.
Okay, so that's been an improvement.
Yes, yes. So what happens is, as soon as you click approve on that early page that says, do you give consent to have the IRS pull your tax information? As soon as you click approve, it's done. They're going to look to see if your name and social and your identity is connected to a 2022 tax return. If it is, it's pulling it straight into the FAFSA. You will never know. Same thing for your parents. Now, if there is no tax return for you or your parents, you will be asked, did you file a 2022 tax return? And for the students who didn't file, you're going to say no. For parents, there may be other reasons that they didn't file a tax return. There will be a list of reasons, and we can talk about that when we talk about parents.
Cheerece, did you get tripped up on anything?
So I did have one question, and that was related to our undocumented students. I'm wondering if you have any other resources that they might be able to access if they're looking for help with affording college. I know you mentioned that they wouldn't be able to start the FAFSA, and I'm assuming is that due to not having a social, or what are some other reasons why our documented students wouldn't be able to start the FAFSA application?
Right. Okay. So there, the FAFSA is for students who are U.S. citizens or nationals or eligible non-citizens, okay? So it could be an eligible non-citizen who has a green card, permanent resident. It could be someone who's been granted asylum, not waiting for asylum, but granted asylum, someone who has humanitarian parole. There are certain categories, and there's information on the FAFSA website about who is eligible. For students who are undocumented, who do not have legal status in this country, very few of these students have social security numbers. They may have a social security number because they have DACA, but that does not mean that they're eligible for federal student aid, so they cannot do the FAFSA. Okay, for our undocumented students who have been in the United States since age 16 or younger, then we have the ACTUS, the aid application for Connecticut undocumented students. I can send you the link. You may know it already. It is a financial aid application that is for our Connecticut public colleges and universities. For UConn, it's an institutional aid application on the UConn website. It's online. For all of our other schools, CT State, the community college, Central, Southern, Eastern, Western, it is a paper application. And I can certainly do a session or help you with that application. It doesn't give you a lot of money. Remember, and it's only for our state schools. I advise my students that it's best used at the community college because you could conceivably get enough through this application to cover your cost at community college, but because our universities are so much more expensive, you may only get a small amount versus the amount that you end up having to pay. If you are a student with, for example, asylum pending or temporary protected status, TPS, those types of statuses, we need to have a talk because you are not eligible to fill out the FAFSA and you are not eligible to do the ACTUS. So please connect with one of us, connect with me, and we can talk about your options.
Yeah, I would definitely say connect with Cheerece or Jordan if that is your circumstance, and they will be able to direct you to the proper resource, or Holly, or whatever resources are available. That was pretty comprehensive. I do have one last question that
Okay.
we discussed earlier about this looming February 15th flight that the state of Connecticut has. And so if you could put some clarification on who that impacts.
Sure. So a lot of students and counselors are worried about a February 15th deadline for Connecticut financial aid. That deadline only applies to students who are applying for the Roberta Willis Need and Merit Scholarship, the one that you're working with your high school counselors to apply for. It's the one for top 20% of the senior class by class rank, or if you have high SAT or ACT scores. Your counselor will know if you qualify. That one has a February 15th deadline, excuse me, for filing the FAFSA. However, I've talked with the people at the state who are in charge of it. They are discussing moving that deadline. We know that a lot of students have been unable to complete the FAFSA, especially parents without social excuse me, social security numbers have not been able to create their FSA IDs. Colleges know about these problems with the initial launch of the new FAFSA. It's so new, it really is having more software problems than we anticipated. We are all working together. So work with your counselor, and your counselor will be notified if the deadline is moved. But please know, we are not penalizing you because you can't get the FAFSA done because the application isn't working correctly for you.
So two things. One, we also have students who are currently enrolled in college who may be renewing their Roberta Willis scholarship, so it would apply to those students as well. And also, how do you feel about sooner versus later in completing your FAFSA? Like,
Normally we say the sooner the better. We always say the sooner the better. But there have been some glitches that have prevented students from completing the FAFSA. They've answered the wrong question. They've answered a question incorrectly, especially that one that says, "Are your parents unwilling?" And they click yes. And then they're not asked about their parents. Their FAFSA gets submitted without their parent information, and they have to wait until the FAFSA processes
to make
and
the
they're notified to get back in and make the correction. So,
So
you know,
that question, we just make sure you pay attention to this video and review that page that we were on regarding that.
right. Right. I'm in touch with colleges and financial aid offices, admissions offices all over the country. We are all working together to make sure that things will happen for this senior class. I know you're stressed about it. Please don't stress. Colleges are very understanding. And if you need help with a FAFSA, please get it. There's help out there.
Thank you so much. This was really helpful. I think a lot of students are going to feel relieved to know that it's streamlined, but there are in fact a couple little glitches, but they can work their way through it. I'm pretty sure of it. And I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to holding another session with you. So this was a great
Great.
opportunity.
Yeah, thank you very much. And I will send you a link where students can connect with me. Again, I work for a nonprofit. It's free advice. And I'd love to have more students do my short Google form so you can be on my list. And that way, if I have any information for you, I'll text it out, I'll email it out. It's either about the FAFSA or the ACTIS or scholarships or whatever it is.
Yeah,
So
so if you're in one of those more unusual circumstances, especially with your immigration status, I strongly urge you to reach out to Holly and follow up with that because she really knows what she's doing. So
okay,
thank
great.
you.
So thanks very much.
Thank
Okay,
you. Have a great
okay,
day.
bye. Thank you so much for watching and listening, everyone. And I just wanted to show my QR code and my bit.ly link to connect with me at the College Place. Again, you'll be getting emails and texts once in a while whenever I have important information to share. There's no obligation. I don't share your name. I don't share your information. And you can opt out at any time, but I would love to connect with you. Thank you.